18.
Hello and welcome to this very special show. Well, remember, the government has a plan to develop nearly 100 smart cities. But the first one, and on a global level, and of course the first international financial service center as well, has been the GIFT City in Gujarat. We are now joined by Mr. Ajay, Pandey, who is MD and Group CEO at GIFT City, and he joins us in the festivities here. Mr. Pandey, hi, welcome. And, what's your sense, first of all, of the first ever experiment, or perhaps a full-fledged thing that's running in sense of the GIFT City now?
I think the first sense that one gets is of pride, I should say. Pride both for what we are doing and pride as an Indian citizen, because a lot of things are happening and in a way history is getting created. So there is a huge sense of pride which all of us carry.
Well, this was announced way back in 2009 and we are in 2016 right now. How has been the journey for all these years when you look at GIFT?
So, like any other infrastructure project, everything hasn't, fallen into place on an overnight basis. And almost in about 2009, government of Gujarat said that, they would like to develop something like this. And thereafter in 2011, land of almost 886 acres, which was actually ravines, if you will, in that sense, was allocated to the project. And then thereafter, some construction work began, and finally, in terms of its shape and character, the infrastructure started to come in. And with the identity of the city having been conferred as India's first international financial services center, the first umbrella set of regulations came only in April of 2015. And then thereafter, it has been a good journey from a business side of it. So it started off as an infra-led project, but today very proud to say that in the last 14-15 months, we have turned the ship towards making it a business-led project.
So you can say that it majorly started perhaps in 2015 only?
I guess so, because the participants started to come in there. And International Financial Services Center's success is a function of how important your pillars are, which is the taxation, your dispute resolution mechanism, in ease of doing business, etc. So unless all of these things begin to fall in place, you can't say it's up and running. And very glad to say that since the formal notification happened in the budget of 2015, we are racing ahead.
And as you talked about the participants, and we have seen a lot of big listed names really rushing to be a part of this venture, from big banks to exchanges to financial names as well. So when it comes to banks, we know that some of them already have tied up, have their facilities up and running. What are these names and how big are the facilities as of now?
So let me just, before I come to the names of the banks or the participants, I think let me just first get the real estate side of it sorted out with some of these big names, because then you'll be able to appreciate as to who's coming in and, what the game is likely to be. In terms of real estate players, very proud to have Hiranandani Group, well-known name in India, Brigade Group from Bangalore, another listed entity. Then you have a Prestige Group, which is again a very, listed kind of an entity which has participated in GIFT City. We have the World Trade Center, almost 1 million square feet getting created. Then you have, there's a very big, well-known name in the northern side, ATS Greens and ATS Group. They have, in partnership with one of the local Ahmedabad player, they have also taken position. So these are like virtually who's who of the real estate industry.
So how much is the total area that has been allocated? Do you see more coming in, and how much has been constructed upon right now?
Yeah, so our mandate is to develop about 62 million square feet of developed area, out of which the development rights have been given to for 15 million square feet. And out of the 15 million square feet, half of it has been given to ILFS, which is the 50% shareholder in this project, India's first PPP kind of a project. To your question as to how much of it has been developed, so almost about 3 million square feet has already been developed, and the balance 10 or 11 million is in the process of getting developed. Coming to the list of banks, we have, as we speak, about 22 companies that have registered their entities in the Financial Services Center. Seven of the banks have already started their operations after getting licenses from Reserve Bank of India. And these are, again, India's largest public sector bank, State Bank of India, India's
Which has been
largest...
the latest entrant.
That's right. Then you have India's largest private sector bank, which is ICICI Bank, then IndusInd Bank, Kotak, then IDBI Bank, and then Federal Bank. All of them have started their Yes Bank, of course, was one of the early entrants. So these are like 6 or 7 virtually who's who have started their operations.
I just want to come back on that ease of doing business. I mean, it's a single licensing window, the ease of doing business. A lot of, the taxes and other curbs are expected to be waived off. How have you seen that moving ahead?
So there are 2 components to the single window thing, and I think it's important that I clarify. When it comes to the city, running the city, and if somebody has to participate in the city, we are very proud of the fact that you actually get a single window treatment. If any of the developers want to develop something, they come in, there's just one office. Everything right from the application to allocation to, the road, power, environment clearance to clearance of the building permission plan, everything is done at one place. So this is one side of it. If I come to the International Financial Services Center, I must clarify that we are not a regulator. The regulator happens to be for banking sector RBI, for capital markets it is SEBI, and for insurance players it is IRDA. We are more like a facilitating agency. And coming to ease of doing business, I think because we offer single window treatment, and also there are certain provisions of the company law that are under discussion at the moment that are likely to be waived off with competitive tax rates. I think people are finding it really easy to do business with GIFT.
Well, that's about the real estate and the banks as well, which have come on board. The exchanges is really the next step here, because we have the national exchanges also having applied. There have been some MOUs signed with the international exchanges as well. And while some basic framework has been readied in sense of rules and regulations, but a lot of clarity is still awaited on this front.
So, in terms of there are actually 3 verticals of the International Financial Services Center. One is the banking, which is taken off. Then you have the insurance vertical, and the first insurance company, that is New India Insurance, has already been licensed. And in fact, in next 10 days, that will get inaugurated. So insurance vertical would also kind of kick off. Then third one happens to be the capital markets. Now, capital market, it's not about one entity. It's about, you have exchanges, then you have intermediaries, you have brokers, then you have clearing corporations, and then you have many other players supporting that overall exercise. In that aspect, the umbrella regulations have already been issued, and that's the reason why some of the exchanges have announced their participation. At least the Indian exchanges have announced their participation at GIFT City. But some of the operating guidelines are under discussion, and they would be issued. So I think we are as involved in the process as one could be to ensure that some of these things fall in place. I must clarify, though we are sort of not a regulator. In terms of the international players, we have MOU with the DMCC Dubai, which is a commodity exchange there. We have London Stock Exchange has been talking to us. In fact, London Stock Exchange and NSE have had a partnership, and they have expressed their desire to come in here. We have we have been discussing even with Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So there's fair amount of interest even amongst the international players to see if they could participate in GIFT.
Another big thing, as you were just mentioning, is about the PPP model. I mean, the PM has been talking about it, and this perhaps seems to be the right platform, the way it has taken up. How much of a development have you seen there? And the other smart cities, which perhaps are watching on how this one progresses, what is there to pick from that?
So there are quite a few learnings that I think one should take from some of projects of this nature. And I think one of the key learning is that it's not only about creating the infrastructure, it's about running it. It's about, making it citizen friendly. It's about making sure that ease of doing business is there. It's also about saying that which smart city in the country is carrying what kind of tag, if you will, or identity. In our case, it happens to be a financial services center. The point that I'm making is that these are not going to survive in isolation. They are going to survive if the required ecosystem kind of supports it. and then you will be able to see a growth, really a good match of then people, infrastructure, and all the facilities that you are kind of creating. So I think everyone who has been coming to us loves the infrastructure, but I think beyond the bricks and cement, there is something else that people need to sort of look at.
Well, yes, I've read so much about the skyline that the Gift City is actually out to create there. But, you know, with so many big names, as you pointed out, the kind of infrastructure and the kind of business we're talking about, do you also see other businesses then getting attracted here, opening up an office there? Because with the kind of thing that you're out to do, it just makes more sense for a lot of businesses then to start shifting.
You're absolutely right. So it's not only the Financial Services Center, which is in fact a portion of it. You'll be surprised to know that the Financial Services Center is just about 20% or at the most 25% of the overall city area. So there's a lot of area which we call it as a domestic tariff area, which is a domestic zone. And we are beginning to see people of all kinds coming in there. So we have, apart from the domestic banks, we have set up arbitration center. Singapore Arbitration Center has already come in there. So you'll see a lot of legal, law firms and others coming in the domestic area. We already have some of the big names like Oracle, the IT companies. You know, Oracle has declared it to be their 4th development center and global, on a global scale, 10th development center in India. So there are a lot of IT companies, a lot of KPO companies, a lot of support services companies are sort of coming in there. So we also have one of the state-of-the-art data center which is there. So you're absolutely right. It's not only the Financial Services Center. I think there are a lot of other things that are sort of coming up there.
Coming in there. Also, the next thing is really on the money part of it. On what is the allocated budget? How much has been spent? How much do you think is going to be needed by the time this really takes off?
So I think let me just say what is it that we have committed already on the ground. So infrastructure projects can guzzle as much money as is sort of available. I should start by saying that. Having said that, the first phase of almost about 2,000 crores, we got it funded through a component of debt with a select set of banks and some of it through internal accruals. So that's the first phase of about 2,000 odd crores. In its maturity in 2025, the whole project, including all the investments that would be made by developers, by gift towards infrastructure, etc., everything put together, we are talking of almost about close to 67 to 70,000 crores, almost 10 to 11 billion dollars, if you will, in that sense. So that's the scale of the project. So we have just we've just begun to get our head up on the sky as far as this is concerned.
You know, you talked about the international facilities and how perhaps we are on the same grounds here. Is there a tie-up with these facilities, perhaps in Singapore? You talked about Singapore for sure, but London and other areas, is there a tie-up in place?
There's no tie-up. There's no formal tie-up per se, but we do pick up the, learning things from anywhere and everywhere in the world. Though I must say that a couple of infrastructure projects that have been implemented within the Gift City have been done by some global players. For example, India's first automatic waste collection system has been done by a company from Sweden. Our district cooling system, which actually ensures that no individual air conditioners are there in the building, has been done by a consortium from Middle East. So I think likewise we have various players taking part in it. Our overall telecom planning was done by British Telecom. So we do have global participation, but not as in like a participating in a day-to-day affairs or management of Gift City.
Also, when we talk about what can be traded, there has been the big question. We have exchanges actually on record saying on how they are looking at mock trading to start soon, and perhaps next year, the calendar year 2017, you could perhaps see all of that start. So who all can participate? What do you think can be traded in the Gift City?
So this is, stock exchanges can participate, the commodity exchanges can participate, alternate investment funds have, can set up their shop there. Then investment advisors could be there. So likewise, I think there are multiple set of players who could be there. What could be traded there? Anything and everything that is non-rupee. So if it's a global company, I mean, it's very, very sort of feasible next year by this time around to see something like Apple or IBM stock, which is today listed in New York or London, You would also have it listed, let's say, in gifts. So any company which is incorporated outside of India, this would be a platform where people would be able to, you know, sort of list it. Then there are derivatives that could be sort of there. Then your depository receipts. So all of this would be, you know, possible. There will be clearing corporations. There will be. So I think when I said about capital markets, it's the whole ecosystem, including the interest being shown by the intermediaries or brokers, whichever way you want to call it. I think all of that is possible.
Going to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've talked about opportunities that are available and such a big thing that can be made out of that. But what are the challenges do you see going ahead? Do you see it all happening at a slower pace? Have you seen that happen?
Look, as I said, infrastructure projects have their set of challenges, you know, and sometimes there are a few unpredictable things that also happen in individual development. But I think what has now happened is that the learning curve, in my view, we have spent fair amount of time in doing that early part of the curve. And that's the reason why you have seen business has begun to move forward. And I think if we can put some of the other enablers in place, you know, sooner than later, we do see it sort of taking off. So I would say that the pace, if at all anything, is going to
only increase
from now onwards.
So what are the timelines? What are the targets that you're working with as of now?
So we are working to complete the phase 1 of the infrastructure by 2017, which is not very far. And we had planned to kind of, you know, give out about 10 million square feet of development rights out of the 62 million. But as I said, very pleased to say that we have already crossed 15 million now. And so we are already in the phase 2 allocation of development rights. But from a construction perspective, we are still in the phase 1. And finally, we hope to see all of this getting completed by 2024, 2025. So that's what is the horizon that we are looking at.
Since we're catching up on this Diwali, what is the target that you would have by next Diwali? In the next 1 year, what are the plans that you see actually taking off? So
one, I think the important thing is that there are 2 or 3, you know, construction projects which are currently on, including World Trade Center and some of the other you know, developments from Prestige and Brigade Group. I would like them to be, you know, virtually nearing completion, if you will. But more importantly, from a business side, I think it'll be a delight to see the exchanges working very well. It'll be a delight to see if we could have some of the global names that are not listed in India today to have been listed there. And I think that's what that's exactly what I meant when I started off this discussion to say, I don't want only GIFT to be proud of it. I think every Indian should feel proud of the fact that Apples and the, you know, IBMs and the Googles of the world are listed here in India. So I would expect to see some of this happening by next Diwali.
So, you know, another thing is that while we're only talking about spending till time, what is the kind of revenue that you have been getting, and what's the balance sheet looking like right now?
So, I think I mentioned to you that out of about 2,000 crores of our first phase of investment, we have debt of about 1,100 and almost about 1,200 crores, and balance 800 odd crores is supposed to be from the internal accruals, and that's what we are sort of, you know, tracking at the moment. In terms of the revenue model, I guess the objective not here is to make, you know, any kind of a huge profit. It's a public-private partnership project. And we would be happy if we are able to break even in terms of our recovery of cost, in terms of maintenance and creation of some of these facilities.
I also just quickly want to bring about another point. As you said, one thing attracts others, and we perhaps are looking at exchanges, brokers, many other firms also joining in. The other, of course, is the residential and the hotel facilities as well.
Right.
So are they coming on board as yet?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, you can't have a walk-to-work kind of a story. In fact, the school is already operational there. We already have some kids going there. It's a well-known school of Mumbai, Jamnabai Nursery School. It's already operational for last year and a half. We are planning to have about 25,000 residences in the city. The construction work has just started. We have a 4-star hotel that is, you know, the Bhumi Pujan has already been done. Brigade Group is sort of constructing it, so that should be up and ready in another 18 to 24 months. We already have a clubhouse which is halfway done, and that should also be getting ready next year by this time around. In fact, it will be great if we could announce the opening of that in next Diwali. So yeah, these are all the social infrastructure that's coming up.
Just one final point before we let you go, Mr. Pandey, and that really is next Diwali. I hope we will talk again. And I mean, is there a plan year on year basis? Have you put anything in sense of a growth year on year? I mean, of course, you said 2020-24 perhaps is when you see it completely up and running. But how has been the year on year growth as of now?
So year on year growth, while we had made some plans, but I think the actual, if I may use the word year zero, so to speak, kind of began in 2015 when we had the formal announcement. And that's what I meant to say, that when it started off in April of 2015, and that's why I talked about 2025. So it's a 10-year horizon, which is divided into various phases. So
would you say the other smart cities perhaps will take less time and there's a lot of learning already from GIFT?
The only catchword here is that we started off as a greenfield city. And a lot of because there are 3 different categories of smart city. There's a redevelopment, there's a retrofit. So I think for a greenfield smart city, I think there's a huge learning and people can do a copy-paste that's possible. From a retrofit and for some of the redevelopment side, I guess there are some local challenges which local organizations will have to deal with.
Well, absolutely, Mr. Pandey. It has been a lovely experience chatting up with you. So there are huge banks and real estate listed companies and expectation that there could be more hotels and other international and Indian exchanges as well being part of the GIFT City very soon. Wishing you a very happy Diwali, Mr. Pandey, and thank you so much for coming here with talking to us.
Thank you for having me, and happy Diwali to you as well.
Thank you so much. Same to you.